Testing 1 2, mic testing 1 2, 3 plus 4, using PodMass. Oh, okay, I think the microphone's working. And if it is, that means we are good to go. Cool. Welcome. This is See Why It Matters. Welcome. This is See Why It Matters. Please enjoy your stay as we converse for change. Welcome. This is See Why It Matters. This is See Why It Matters. Welcome to See Why It Matters. I'm your host, CY, and thank you for tuning in to the first episode. And this being the first episode, it only makes sense to talk on why See Why It Matters, or at least why it exists. So See Why It Matters is a platform to talk on all things that matter, primarily on masculinity and manhood. And ironically, first episode happening on Women's Month. So just want to send a special shout out to all the women and say Happy Women's Month. Hope you guys have yourself a great one and stay being special and stay kicking ass. And with that, back to us gents. First episode, defining masculinity 10 minutes at a time. This was pretty much inspired by the idea that the best way to eat an elephant, not that I would know, but the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. Because when you look at how big an elephant is, it kind of looks like, it's impossible to have it all in one sitting, all in one go. And so masculinity and masculinities is as vast as that. And so it just made sense to try and chop it up to 10-minute segments. So these videos and episodes are going to be 10 minutes. I'm going to be dropping one twice a month, so every other week. So please do stay tuned and drop in your own say on masculinity, on defining it and what it means to you, what it meant before, what it means now, and what do you think it's going to mean going into the future. And the reason why that is so important is because everything around us is changing. Not too long ago, the only people who worked were men, and now women have gotten into the workplace. So the work is changing. Society is changing. Everything. I mean, now we're on lockdown. If that is not changed enough, I don't know what is. So in a society where things are changing, it only makes sense for people to have a proactive conversation, to check the landscape and say, are we changing enough? Are we catching up? Are we evolving to the times? Are we responding to the times? Or are we going to suffer the same fate as, for example, let's say the taxi industry? They've stayed the same for so long that every time something innovative happens, like Uber or Ria Vaya buses, they have to strike. They have to try and keep the status quo. They have to try and keep things the same because they don't want to change with the times. And so for me, it really does make sense to try and have a proactive conversation, to read the landscape and say, I think we might need to evolve on some of the ideas that we have about masculinity. And because it's such a vast thing, this whole platform is not to define that masculinity is this one particular thing. And once we've had this 10-minute conversation, we're all set, ready to conquer the world. I think that's really setting ourselves up for failure. But how I see it is that this is one way of looking at masculinity, of defining or trailblazing a particular sense of masculinity. So I think of it as a puzzle piece. A puzzle piece is very important for the whole picture, but it's not the whole picture. So the purpose of having a platform where we have proactive conversations is to carve out a particular piece. Like puzzles have these different rigid pieces, and all those rigid pieces fit in a particular way. So just because we reach a particular understanding of masculinity doesn't mean now we have to overtake the whole puzzle, But it is to say, how about we create this particular piece? And as we create that particular piece, the more we refine it, puzzles just have these cool things and grooves. The more we refine it, the easier it locks into the place where it needs to lock in. So for me, it feels important for men to have a conversation about defining who they are. And by saying who they are, it's like independent of their relationship with women, independent of their jobs, independent of what they do, but just defining, what makes you a man? What makes you a man outside of your job? What makes you a man outside of your relationship with your lady? So that's a conversation I feel needs to be the starting point for me, because once we get that piece correct, once we define, okay, for me, this is what masculinity means, I create this particular puzzle piece, then it's easy for me to plug it into all the other puzzle pieces, whether it be in society, whether it be in the workplace, whether it be in my relationships. Once that definition and identity of manhood is defined, it's easy to just say, yeah, I'm gonna plug this in. So with that said, the piece that I'm trying to create on a personal level, and I hope you guys also add in your own ideas of what masculinity means to you, independent of all these other things. For me, masculinity talks to reliability, and because we have testosterone, it also talks to protection. And one of the things that we find satisfying as gents is providing. So if I'm going to talk about masculinity, for me, it's going to talk to how reliable am I? Am I protective enough to the people around me and myself also? I need to protect myself also and equally protect those around me. And am I providing enough, whether it be finances, whether it be emotional support, being present, is my sense of provision well, am I providing well? So for me, those are the things that define manhood. So I feel that once that for me is addressed, I can take that particular piece and say, when it comes to my relationship with, say, my family or my lady, when I talk to reliability, when I talk to provision, when I talk to protection, it fits in when it comes to society. So please do jump in and have your own say on what you feel masculinity is in its purest form. Before we start throwing it into men relating to women, what is it that you think about as a man? What is it that you think you need to attain? What is it to you that feels like, okay, this is a man's man. Now I'm doing what a man ought to do. In our culture, we have this thing, like, to you, what does that mean? So please do chuck that in. Throw in your own idea of what manhood and masculinity is. And, equally on this platform, we're going to be sharing a lot of stories regarding how people and men and gents have navigated their own masculinity. So I find it very important to at least have a proactive conversation on how do we define masculinity before it enters into the sphere of society, before it enters into the sphere of our relationship with any and everyone else. How do we describe it? And maybe even have to define or redefine the bro code. What is the bro code in 2020 during lockdown? I don't know. Me, I don't know. But these are the things that I feel are gonna help us take the conversation forward. What is masculinity to you? What is being a man's man for you? before we even get to the point of, our relationship with women, our relationship with money, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with other gens, our relationship with any and everything. What's masculinity? What's manhood for you? And hopefully we get to engage a lot more and talk. For everyone who keeps saying, but y'all are not ready for that conversation, check it in. Let's have that conversation. Let's try it out. So please do throw in your own suggestions or your own ideas on masculinity. Is this even the right way to start off the whole conversation on masculinity? That's my take for the day. Please do stay tuned to more episodes on See Why It Matters. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.